They say the harder the work, the greater the reward. This is our life's work.
Good morning. It is 9:08 Wednesday, April 6th. This is the TDN Writers Room presented by Keeneland. My name is Joe Bianca. I'm the associate editor of the Thoroughbred Daily News. If you look all around you, the rites of spring are here. Flowers are blooming. Keeneland opens in 2 days. The birds have returned north. And Bill Finley is ready to start complaining about the Red Sox again.
Hi, I'm Bill Finley, the Red Sox complainer, and I'm a correspondent for the Thoroughbred Daily News. And I'm not going to worry about baseball just yet. I'll get psyched for tomorrow. But I got a question for you guys that's been keeping me up at night. And, you know, in racing media, we want to be right about things. Everybody keeps calling it the Jeff Ruby Stakes. Isn't it the Jeff Ruby Stakes?
Good question.
Think about it. It's STEAK is stakes for his restaurant. It's the Jeff Ruby Stakes. Nobody calls it that.
You know what, Bill? That was a rare moment of you being well done.
I prefer to be medium rare.
Yes,
actually.
Exactly. You see what I did there?
Anyway, we got you.
Jonathan Green, General Manager of DJ Stable, and I want to genuinely thank everyone for their thoughts and kind words and support. As you can see, I did run the 5K. I broke through a personal best. You can see the photo of Patty will put it up there. That is really me. That is not doctored, because God knows if I was doctoring it, I'd make myself look even skinnier. But thank you for everyone. I broke through and did a lifetime best, 28:58, Joe and Bill, 28:58.
Good job, John. Good job.
And still have a little bit left in the tank. So I'm signed up for another one on May 15th.
28:58, geared down at the wire, I'm sure.
Gearing down. That's exactly what it said in the in the past performance. It said gearing down. The only problem was I would have gone a little faster, but Paco Lopez was riding one of the other contestants and kept bumping into me.
And John, I want to let you know, I talked to Andy Byer himself last night. You got a 53.
53.
Yeah.
This is just a prep for the marathon, right, John?
There you go.
No, I'm a sprinter. That's why I love Gamine so much, because I am a pure sprinter. To hell with the two turns.
You saw yourself in her, that's right. The TDN Writers Room was brought to you by Keeneland. Mark your calendars for the April Horses of Racing Age sale after the races on closing day of the spring meet, which is Friday, April 29th. And opening day of the spring meet is just 2 days away. It's a phenomenal card, going to be a great weekend of racing. We cannot wait for that Keeneland spring meet to open its doors. So we're halfway home in the major Derby, the final round of Derby preps. Last weekend we had the Florida Derby and the Arkansas Derby. This weekend coming up, we've got the Wood Memorial, the Santa Anita Derby, as well as the Bluegrass at Keeneland. The big story of the weekend was Secret Oath. I thought she got a terrible ride, and I thought she deserved much better than that in that race. But I thought in Florida, White and Barrio ran a really good race. I thought clearly that was the better prep of the two that looked like that going in. Definitely did not disappoint in that regard. What did you guys take away from the weekend?
Well, it took away a lot, John. Joe. Let's start with Secret Oath. And I do agree on the ride, by the way. I mean, I don't think it cost her the race, but it was kind of erratic, and maybe he moved too soon and asked too much for her. Just to let you know, Luis Contreras is the rider, and he's a good rider. Rides at Woodbine, but he's not in the same league with the the Ortizes and the Rosarios and the Flavian Prots. I asked Wayne Lucas if he would make a rider change. He said absolutely not. He's sticking with him. So I was a little bit surprised to hear that. But anyway, so much to go over. But I guess, like you said, Secret Oath was the biggest story. She ran great, absolutely great. And did she run well enough to merit a start in the Kentucky Derby? No. This was the big test. It made all the sense in the world to do it. It was a smart move. I mean, they were 6-5, or was it 7-5? 6-5 or 7-5 in a $1.25 million race with Kentucky Derby points on the line. And she ran great. Looks like now that, it's going to set up for what is, by the way, no one's paying a whole lot of attention to the Kentucky Oaks, but that field is loaded. I mean, absolutely loaded with her, Echo Zulu, Kathleen O, who won over the weekend, Nest, who goes in the Central Bank Ashland at Keeneland. So that was the big story there. And Lucas also said that, it says, don't be surprised if we try something like this again. She somehow won the Kentucky Oaks, maybe the Preakness for her. The winner, Cyberknife, can you get real excited about him? Probably not. He just came off an allowance win. You had the Brad Cox factor with him. Then White Abarrio was very good. If anyone read my TDN Week in Review, I just slobbered all over Charge It. I thought he was great in that race. Absolutely great for his third lifetime start. He ran greenly. He lugged in, lugged out. If we want to have a future book on the Travers or something like that, I'm making him the favorite. I don't know if he can win the Kentucky Derby, but I love his potential and what he showed. And Tiz the Bomb wins the Jeff Ruby Stakes. And now Ken McPeek, who we're going to hear from in today's show, tells us it's likely to go on for the Kentucky Derby, which would for now mean a trip over to Europe. Nice horse, but can he win on the dirt against that level? I don't think so.
And to me, the big races or the big horses to talk about weren't even necessarily the winners of the Derby preps. And Bill, you hit the nail on the head with Charge It. That's why, I picked him actually for the contest because he's just so impressive and he's so green and inexperienced. And you could see it going down the stretch. He didn't know if he wanted to go right or left or forward or sideways. I mean, he was all over the place and is definitely a horse to watch, in these more classic distances. He's still a legitimate horse, again, bred up the wazoo, a Tappet out of an Indian Charlie mare. And I'm just excited for that horse. Again, not that we're the be all and end all experts, but once again, we hit the superfecta. Our picks were the first, second, third, and fourth place finishers in the Curlin Florida Derby. With Joe's White Abarrio winning, my Charge It finished second, Al's Simplification third, and Bill's Papa Cap finishing fourth. So again, guys, if I know we're not handicappers, but man, just
for yourself,
stretch. Exactly. Give yourself tennis elbow, patting yourselves on the back. I
have a handicapping show, John. You can't say that I'm not a handicapper.
The rest of us, Joe. The rest of us aren't a handicapper, right? You're above and beyond. You're above reproach when it comes to handicapping.
All right. Just making sure.
With your own spinoff, Laverne and Shirley show. Yes, exactly. You're riding the coattails of all your success right now, buddy.
Totally.
The other race that I thought was really, or the other horse I thought was really, really impressive is Kathleen O. Can we just talk about her for a couple of minutes here in the Gulfstream, winning the Gulfstream Park Oaks? Not only did she stay undefeated, and she won kind of in a hand ride once she switched leads and kept going, but she and the second place finisher Goddess of Fire in that race were 17 lengths up on the rest of the field. 17 lengths on the rest of the field. And I know it wasn't the stellar group that you normally see for the Oaks, but Kathleen O just really impressed me. And first and foremost, she hit my radar when she sold for $275,000 as a 2-year-old, which for an upstart, that's a lot of money to pay. And I got to give the old hand Shug McGahee a lot of credit. He's doing it the right way. He broke her maiden going 7/8. Then he stretched her out to a 1-turn mile when she won the cash run. Gave her a little bit of time. She won, again, coming back in the Devona Dale. And now she went 2 turns for the first time here in the Gulfstream Park Oaks. And guys, I know we've said it before, but how good is that Oaks race looking in comparison to the Derby? I know Bill just said it as well. But I think dollar for dollar that the Oaks is going to be a more exciting race than the Derby is at this point. And I don't remember saying that in the past few years. It always seems like that, the Derby has been the dominant story in this. But if I was, not that I work for any of the publications, but you almost have to make them front page at this point, the Oaks, because these fillies are really, really talented. And that race is coming together to be maybe one of the top 3 races of the year. That's how impressive I think the group is going to be. At least the top 4 or 5 are going to be. Again, we spoke to Kenny McPeek about Tiz the Bomb. I've heard from people that if you can run on the Churchill Down, if you can run on the Poly, then it's similar packed, to the way that the Churchill Downs racetrack is in late April, early May. I don't know if I can, subscribe to that theory, but I guess we're probably going to see it with Hit the Bomb, and see how that horse can transition over to a dirt racetrack. But Tiz the Bomb ran exactly the way he was supposed to. He went by those horses, and he and Tawny Port, I guess, are going to be earning enough points and heading to the Derby. But to me, Charge It, who ran second in the Florida Derby, and Kathleen O, who won the Oaks, those were the stories for me for the weekend.
to follow up on some of that stuff, I'm shocked that they're not going to change jockeys on Secret Oath. No disrespect to Luis Contreras. I don't have anything against him personally, but I think that's twice in a row that he's given her a pretty bad ride. And the Honeybee, even though she won off by a lot of lengths, I thought that, he kind of got her into unnecessary trouble in that race. And in this race, she was just way too far out of it. And it was a very hesitant ride. It seemed like he was unwilling to hit holes or go inside of horses or around horses. And then she made that big move and just flattened out in the stretch. She really honestly had nothing to be disgraced about in that race. I thought she ran terrific, like you guys are saying. And John's right. John said this actually a couple weeks ago. We were talking about how there hadn't really been any breakout performances from the fillies yet. And he said, just give it a little bit of time. We're going to see some big races. And we've seen that. We saw, Secret Oath, even though she didn't win, ran a big race in the Arkansas Derby. I really like Echo Zulu's race in the Fairgrounds Oaks. And then, like you guys said, Kathleen O was crazy impressive in that race. Goddess of Fire, I think, is a nice horse who's gotten a little bit unlucky. I think she moved a little bit early in that Fairgrounds race, and the Rachel Alexandra just got run down late by Turn Her Loose. Yeah, and on Saturday, she just was second best to a really, really good horse. As you mentioned, they were well clear of the rest of the field. The rest of that field was pretty much a joke, but those two definitely ran big races, and Kathleen O, very exciting horse. I think, honestly, I would make her the favorite at this point in the Oaks. I know she's not going to be because Secret Oath has so much buzz, and I think Echo Zulu obviously as a champion has a lot of buzz too. But I don't know if Kathleen O is 3-1 or 7-2 in the Oaks. I think that's pretty good value with the way she's looked. She's just been so impressive, and just like you guys are saying, has taken that step forward every single time. And Shug is great at that. He's great at getting those horses to develop kind of uniformly along the way. And, daughter of Upstart, and building an interesting story on the owner recently when she first was coming on the scene. It was like his first horse or two that he bought at auction. So that's always interesting. That's always fun to see people who are new to the game be successful right off the jump. Just to piggyback on the Florida Derby discussion, that was a little bit of a stagger fest late. And I thought White Barrio, I think, even though he got a lower figure than Kathleen O, he got a 96. I thought he ran clearly the best race. Charge It, you can say, he's a little green. He cost himself the race. I would agree with that. But I don't know. I thought White Barrio did more of the hard work in that race. So I thought he was pretty clearly best. I want to say Simplification moved a little bit early. I think those top three, I think I would take those top three from the Florida Derby over anybody that I saw in the Arkansas Derby. Maybe Secret Oath and the Preakness could make some noise. But in terms of in 4.5 weeks from now, I don't want any of those horses out of the Arkansas Derby. I'd rather take the horses from the Florida Derby. And one other horse I wanted to mention was GIII, who came back at the Pan American Stakes on Saturday at Gulfstream, and he was incredibly good looking in that race. And he's a legitimate Grade 1 turf animal, and he took a little bit of time off. He last run in the Breeders' Cup. He did not run well in the Breeders' Cup. He was well up the track, totally empty, but he had run some big races in Grade 1 spots throughout the year. And this was a Grade 2, Grade 3 type field. But he ran past a Bond like he was standing still in the stretch, kind of 2 to his 1 strides type thing. And, I think he's definitely a horse to look for in the turf division going forward. Because I don't know, it's off the top of my head, I can't think of any real star turf horses we have right now. Colonel Liam won the Pegasus World Cup, but I don't think he's really scaring anybody away in some of these Grade 1 races later in the year. So GIII, I think, is definitely one to watch later in the year. Off the layoff, 5 months off, going 1.5 miles. Just blew by him in the stretch. Super, super impressive, I thought.
Yeah, and Joe, I thought, it's funny because I forgot to mention GIII. I have him marked right here on my form. But how about this? And you got to give, Clement, a lot of credit. He took the blinkers off the horse this time. And the horse had all he had done was win a Grade 1 sword dancer wearing blinkers. And for whatever reason, he opted to take the blinkers off for this race. And for the Pan American, and the horse responded. So maybe it's just, sometimes horses get into ruts and you need to change things up on them to kind of, encourage them or surprise them a little bit. And I don't know if that was the rationale behind taking the blinkers off or not, but kudos to Clement for making that decision. And the horse really responded. So, yeah, I don't get excited usually about watching 1.5 mile turf races. But GIII, you have to give, a tip of the cap to all that are, to all the humans that are involved with that horse, because they are campaigning him really, really well. And you're right, he is quickly atop that division with regard to older horses that can go long on the turf. We know there's going to be some Euros that'll come in to run up against him, but man, that was a really impressive race. Especially knocking the rust off because the horse hadn't run since the Breeders' Cup.
Well, it was interesting too because he put the blinkers on. If you remember, he had that race where he ran third behind Domestic Spending in the Manhattan, and he took like a right turn in the middle of the stretch. And then Clement put the blinkers on after that, and he had run in blinkers for 4 starts. And then after the Breeders' Cup turf, they decided to go in the other direction. You would think the Man of War or the Manhattan is next for him, 5-year-old son of Declaration of War. So, yeah, I thought he was, of the undercard races, was the star of the weekend. The TDN Writers Room is brought to you, as always, by Keeneland. We're just days away from opening weekend at Keeneland. Opening weekend features 10 stakes worth $4.55 million. We already have the entries for Friday's races with an 8-horse field in the Grade 1 Central Bank Ashland, headlined by 2-1 morning line favorite Nest, who John mentioned earlier, as well as Cocktail Moments, who we're going to talk to Kenny McPeek about later. Also on Friday, we'll have the Grade 3 Transylvania Stakes. It's overall a tremendous card, as you would expect on opening day from Keeneland. I think there's one claiming race. The rest are straight maidens, allowances, and stakes. Of course, we started with the 2-year-olds going 4.5 furlongs. And I think one of the things that's interesting about those 2-year-old races, it used to just be Wesley Ward and then a bunch of nobodies. I think there are going to be more horses that can potentially challenge Wesley Ward's horses in the 2-year-old races this meet. But we got our first baby race of the season, and of course the stakes with featuring coinage. John, how excited are you?
Oh, I'm beyond excited. To have a horse like Coinage represent us in the Grade 3 Transylvania at Keeneland is like a dream come true. And the fact that he's in a 6-horse field, which is really unusual at Keeneland to have anything less than a full starting gate. So we're really excited about his possibilities. I think he's probably going to be one of the favorites, if not the favorite. I know Graham Motion's got a really nice horse named Dog, who's undefeated, who will be coming down here to Keeneland as well. And Verbal, who's a Juddmonte homebred of Chad Brown's, who's also undefeated. So it's not an easy race. But certainly we're excited, and I wouldn't trade my horse for anybody else in the race right now. The other race that is really exciting for me, again, the Ashland is always a must-see TV for me personally. But how about this, guys? There's 5 Keeneland grads in the race, 5 horses that are in the field that sold through Keeneland as a yearling. And you have, starting with Nest, who's a really nice daughter of Curlin out of an AP Indy mare. Who was almost undefeated. She won 3 races and lost another one by 3/4 of a length. Happy Soul, you talk about Wesley Ward and getting horses ready. Another run Happy that seems to be doing well. They're trying to stretch her out for the first time to go 2 turns in this race. And then you have Cocktail Moments, who we talked a little bit about with Kenny McPeek, about how she's starting to trend in that direction. And he mentioned that he wants to step her up a little bit in class, and he's a hometown guy, which is why he's running her in the Ashland as opposed to one of the other preps. But top to bottom, it is a really strong group of fillies that are going to be in that race. And, a couple of them are going to graduate into the Oaks, and we already know that's going to be a very deep field. So Keeneland, kudos to Keeneland for putting together such a great card the first day. I think it's really apropos, like Joe said, that they're running a 2-year-old race the first thing out of the gate. I think that's the immediate sign that spring is here. And it should be a great weekend of racing at Keeneland. I'm really excited. I'm glad that we're going to be a part of it. And let's go Coinage.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the weather. It might be a little bit colder than normal this weekend, but it looks completely dry. So we're hopefully the weather cooperates throughout the meet. But yeah, cannot wait for those Keeneland races. And I got to root for Dog because just a little hunch play. I have a dog named Cy, so it's a little spelled differently. It's not spelled S-Y, but if John doesn't win, we're rooting for Dog. Okay, we'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. Otherwise, you're going to have to change your dog's name to Coinage.
That's what I get for not making him a rising star.
That's exactly. See, I'll show you. I whisper in his ear every time I see him. It's Joe Bianca who screwed you out of being a rising star, and he's like, that's my Coinage impersonation.
Sounds just like him. We'll be right back after this message from Keeneland.
With all eyes on the Bluegrass this spring, there's no better way to take in the action than Friday, April 29th at Keeneland.
And they're wrong.
We get into it with hip number 1. Good luck.
Featuring a day filled with world-class racing, followed by a unique sales experience in the evening. The April Horses of Racing Age sale. After the races on closing day of the spring meet. Follow the action this April to Keeneland.
Maximum Security proves he's the real deal with a gate-to-wire win in the Florida Derby.
Champion 3-year-old.
Maximum Security has won the TVG.com Haskell Invitational.
11 triple-digit buyers.
Maximum Security, he smoked them in the Cigar Mile.
Grade 1 winning 4-year-old.
Maximum Security takes them all the way in the TVG Pacific Classic.
Secure your mare's future. Maximum Security.
The TDN Writers Room is brought to you by Coolmore. At the Facing Tipton Gulfstream sale, freshman sire Justifier was represented by the top-priced colt of the sale. The juvenile out of Grade 1 Grade 1 winner and producer, Appealing Zophie, brought $1.1 million. Meanwhile, his stud mate, Uncle Mo, had another one of the top sellers of the auction with an $800,000 colt out of Lady Tappet. Uncle Mo also represented with a new graded stakes winner this past weekend with Family Way. Looked very good, winning the Grade 3 Orchid Stakes at Gulfstream for Brennan Walsh, who had a big day on Saturday. She's one of 10 stakes performers and 3 stakes winners for Uncle Mo in 2022. We talked about the 2-year-old race right out of the gate and on opening day at Keeneland. 2 horses in that field are by Ashford Sire, or sons of Ashford, first crop sire Motown. So we'll definitely have an eye on those horses. I think Motown, definitely an interesting son of Uncle Mo, could have a big first year. He was a very nice 2-year-old, so we'll be looking at his horses as well. And maybe we'll see Cupid along the way somewhere here in April. Tease.
Yep. And Joe, don't forget, Mo Donegal is going to be running in the Wood Memorial.
True that. Yep. Definitely an under the radar Derby contender. I expect a big race out of him on Saturday. So in this week's segment of Trainers Behaving Badly, we've got updates on all of your favorite bad boys in the training game. First off, Bob Baffert, not necessarily a bad boy like the other guys we're going to mention, but he's finally going to start serving his suspension. It began April 4th, which was 2 days ago. The last stays were denied for him and Amr Zidan by the Kentucky Court of Appeals. It also was reported earlier this week that Baffert's legal team is withdrawing, at least for now, the complaint against Churchill Downs. So they are retaining the option of picking that back up later on, because remember, he's banned for this year's Derby and the 2023 Derby. So at least for now, they're finally, I think, signaling a little bit of a retreat, which I think is a welcome change for us all, because all of this stuff has been dragging on for so long and we're so tired of talking about it. But, I mean, you guys tell me if I'm wrong. I think the world will go on as long as Bob Baffert is on suspension. And I think when he comes back, all of those horses are going to get back into his barn. And I just think that it was just such a ridiculous argument this whole time that his career was going to be shattered by this 90-day suspension. But, what do you think? Do you think there's any chance that he loses any of these horses permanently?
No, Joe, you're absolutely right. He's not going to lose any of these horses. I don't know much about the guy that's filling in from Sean McCarthy, kind of a veteran trainer. Apparently, his wife works as a bookkeeper for Baffert. And we also have the other horses, the more high-profile horses, going over to Tim Yakteen, the first of which, Doppelganger, didn't run a step in the Arkansas Derby. So, to me, I'm glad only that now we finally sort of have a resolution to this. There's still going to be more legal crap, but we can pretty much move on now. He's got a suspension. He's got the 90 days. He's had to disband his barn in Southern California because of the CHRB rule. Sean McCarthy will be the trainer through early July. Then Delmar will come around. They'll all go back. All the horses will go back to Baffert. And you're right. He's still got the likelihood of not being able to run in the 2023 Kentucky Derby. But once that's out of the way, he'll go right back to being Bob Baffert. They needed to make this argument, the legal argument about how it's irreparable damage to his career, to try to get the injunction, which they couldn't get. But, and I just wonder, if you give him some truth serum, would you say, Bob, was this really all worth it to go through all this to wind up getting nothing less than what you would have got in the first place if he just said, my bad, I did it, see you in 90 days, whatever, see you at the 2024 Derby. Again, I'm sure, I would imagine Bob Baffert has an awful lot of money, but how much was spent on legal fees in this. It's got to be an astronomical amount. But look, it's a complicated story, but in some respects, we can now just move on. I don't know Sean McCarthy from a hole in the wall, but I wish him well, and we'll see how these horses do. But Bob Baffert will be running great guns at Del Mar. He'll win every race there, and Country Grammar will come back to his barn and win the Breeders' Cup Classic, and Bob Baffert will say, wee.
The thing that I'm most surprised about, again, as an owner, is just the amount of stability that's gone on through this whole thing. Like, I can't believe that all of these owners have kept horses with Baffert. And that's the surprising thing. I mean, there's such an amount of degree of loyalty, and you wonder why that is. Is it because, they really believe of his innocence? Maybe because they really believe that he's being, picked out of a lineup of allegedly cheating trainers, that he's the scapegoat. Maybe. Is it just that they believe that, once he comes back into good graces and serves his suspensions, that he's going to be the top trainer, winning races all over the place and developing horses? Yeah, I think that's probably it. I think that it's blinding almost how loyal, the owners have been throughout this whole turmoil and process. I'm glad to see that finally the courts are going the route of saying enough, and Baffert and his legal counsel is saying enough, and that we're able to just kind of go forward on the calendar and start counting days for the suspension to be implemented and also for it to be done. The fact that there was this symbolic taking the signs off the barn in California and how terrible it was, nobody cares. Nobody cares. And as soon as the suspension's over, they're all going to come back. It's going to be Bob Baffert with his flute, playing and bringing all the horses back into his barn where they belong. And it's going to be like business as usual. And unfortunately, business as usual isn't great for the industry, because we still have so many issues with regard to testing and banning and penalizing people who don't play by the rules. And it's across the board. It's not just in California or just specific trainers. It's across the board, the lackingness that we have as far as how we can police and investigate, all of these issues. But thank goodness that the GIII suit, it looks like it's going to get thrown out also, and we can start moving forward with that. But again, who's policing and paying for that deal?
Well, I'm in honor of this 90-day suspension finally going into effect, I am hereby banning us from talking about Bob Baffert for 90 days on this show. Chunk, do the gavel, Law and Order gavel sound. So I have ruled. Unless there's something crazy that happens, like Bob Baffert goes to space with Jeff Bezos or something. No way. No more Baffert.
He might. He's got time. He's got time on his hands now. He very well could.
Yep.
Okay, but that's good. I like that, Judge Joe.
Cool.
I concur.
Okay, all right. Maybe a second career for me. I'll show up wearing a robe next time. But we have some other trainers behaving badly news. I'll let Bill take it away. This is his favorite story of the week.
Yeah, I mean, there's a guy that probably none of us were paying any attention to by the name of Juan Silva, trainer out at Turf Paradise, and the story happened earlier in March, where and in a $3,500 maiden claiming race, he ran a horse that was 1-20. 1-20 meaning if he wins, he's going to pay $210. The horse was dropping from a $30,000 maiden optional claimer, ran third, into a $3,500 maiden claimer. 2 steps out of the gate, maybe 1 step out of the gate, the jockey, a guy by the name of Da Silva, no relation, pulled the horse up. They gave him a 30-day suspension because they said that he didn't report the horse or didn't ask the veterinarian to go over the horse and didn't put in the kind of effort that was required when he obviously knew the horse was unsound. But then they came back and they gave the trainer, Juan Silva, 180 days, and they really nailed him. They said, among other things, he knew the horse was unsound, was claimed, by the way, no waiver. There's no waiving a claim in Arizona. So the poor people that claim the horse obviously have damaged goods. They gave him 180 days, a 6-month suspension. They also said he perjured himself during the hearing. But to me, here's the bigger story of this. I mean, frankly, I'm not such a degenerate that I'm paying attention to Turf Paradise. I never even heard of this guy, but he was the leading trainer there last year. But In 2008, his license was taken away for, quote, for being of not good repute or moral character. What does that mean? What did he do? I don't know, but trust me, it wasn't a Banamine positive. So he didn't train for they kicked this guy out for 6 years, from 2008 and 2014. And this is at a racetrack notorious for letting every miscreant in the game, thank you, Marcus Vitale, able to run there. So, what we talk about a lot on the show, and it brings up the same question here. I mean, assume whatever this guy did to get thrown out for 6 years was very serious. Why did you let him back? And look what happened. When in this sport is enough, that people can do something so serious that the sport just has to say, we're better off without you. Goodbye. Good luck with the rest of your life. Clearly, that should have been done with this guy. Now, this time, maybe they will. They referred it to the Arizona race. Usually in these cases, the stewards are limited to how long a suspension they can give a guy. I assume the 180 days is the most. They referred it to the Arizona Racing Commission, recommending that they really throw the book at this guy, and maybe he will now be done in racing. But, they let him back, and this is what you get. Again, it's kind of, in some respects, it was fortunate that it was at Turf Paradise, because what if this happened on a Saturday afternoon in Gulfstream? Though then again, I'm sure the Stronach Group, which cares about this stuff a lot, never would have let the situation happen. Now, also, and I'm sorry to keep going on here, but Turf Paradise deserves a ton of blame here too. How did the system fail so badly that this horse was allowed to run? What about the vet inspection in the morning? What about the fact that the horse was dropping 7 levels in class or whatnot, and we better take an extra look at this horse? What about the vet going into the gate, looking at him, saying, hey, what's going on here? Maybe asking the jockey, you sure this horse is okay? For the best we can tell, Turf Paradise totally, the management and the veterinary team there totally failed. And again, it was on a Monday or Tuesday at Turf Paradise. There's probably $50,000 in the win pool. But, the poor people that bet on this horse. God.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that this is, again, one of those instances where having racing Twitter is a big deal, and it holds people accountable, because, I saw people posting that video on Twitter. I saw Craig Milkowski posting it, like, how would you have liked to bet this horse at 1-20, and he gets pulled up 2 strides out of the gate? I don't know that anybody would have really cared or really paid attention if there wasn't that congregation of people, degenerates sometimes, who are watching Turf Paradise on a Monday or a Tuesday. And this stuff, it's just as important, their horses' safety at Turf Paradise, as it is in California, Florida, or New York. And like Bill says, this was a failure, up to and leading to when they get in the gate and when they open the gate. Like there were so many things that could have happened to stop this horse from running. Even just looking at the past performances, like Bill says, like there are certain horses that you just see in the past performance that should throw up immediate red flags with those steep droppers, especially at like a small track and a 3,500. Like that's the bottom. That's like unless you're talking about like the fairs, that's the lowest you can get in American racing. And if anything, those horses need the most protection from their trainers and from the tracks. And yeah, that to me is what disappointing. Honestly, when I first saw the story, I thought it was that they stiffed the horse, that they bet a bunch of other horses in the race to show and then pull the horse up 2 strides out of the gate. But maybe that would have been too obvious. If it was indeed a thing where the horse's safety was in peril, then that to me is in a way even worse.
Joe, let me just jump in here. That's a good point, but there were nothing irregular in the betting patterns. There wasn't any like huge exacta boxes throwing this horse out, or a big show bet or something like that. So yeah, that is something that you would be, geez, you stiff a 1-20 shot, you can make a ton of money on a race, but there was nothing, and even the exacta didn't pay less than it should have. So it doesn't appear that anybody was that this had anything to do with trying to.
Yeah, no, but it reflects so poorly on the veterinary situation that the horse was somehow deemed well enough to go into the gate and then was pulled up 2 strides out by the jockey. I mean, that just is unacceptable at any track.
And guys, if you don't mind me jumping in, I have a different trainers behaving badly and things that we're tired of talking about already. But it's our friend Wayne Potts, who was the leading trainer at Monmouth Park. Yay! I'm sure Monmouth's very excited that in all of his headshots, he's got the Monmouth Park logo right there over his heart, on his chest. But embattled trainer Wayne Potts is going to serve another suspension because apparently he was found with an illegal substance in his tack room back in February. And they actually had to stagger this suspension to make sure that it would work with his other existing suspensions that are already in place. Again, another trainer who's been kicked out of a number of different jurisdictions and is not allowed back in the Maryland race. Laurel is not allowed back, to stable at NYRA, although he can run there, but he's not allowed to stable there anymore. And now he's going to have a 385-day vacation. It's not really that long, but it seems like it.
75 days.
75 days. Yeah, if we want to be exactly, Bill. Yes.
Right.
So 75 days where he's going to be on the sidelines, not able to train horses. And again, you have to sit there and say, why? Why does this guy keep getting all these chances? Why is he getting all these opportunities? And then on top of it, and I'm sure this is strictly ironic and just a weird timing, but right before on March 31st, right before April Fool's Day, a number of us in the industry got a text allegedly from Wayne Potts promoting the fact that he's picking winners now. And you can give him $21 and he will pick winners for you because he knows the industry as an insider. And the first time I looked at it, I was like, this has got to be an April Fool's joke. And I texted a couple of my buddies and said, did you get this? And it went out to a number of people. I mean, it went out to almost the entire industry as if Wayne Potts was, trying to sell his handicapping services, and picking up a second career since he's not going to be able to train for 75 days. And he is refuting it, saying that it wasn't him. It was just, strictly coincidence. Somebody's using his name. But for the love of God, man, if you were going to run a business, why would you pick Wayne Potts as your trainer to nom? I mean, if you were going to say, hey, I'm a trainer and you can look me up in Google and have, and be excited about all my successes in the industry and achievements and accomplishments in the industry, I don't think it would be Wayne Potts. I think that there would be some other trainers ahead of him that you would want to that have better name recognition. Like maybe Jason Service has better name recognition and a better name right now than Wayne Potts does, or even Jorge Navarro probably has a better name right now than Wayne Potts. But you wouldn't pick Wayne Potts as your guy, as your go-to guy. That I'm going to hook my wagon to this guy's good name to tout horses and sell my goods and services. It was a strange couple of days for Mr. Potts.
Well, and it becomes one of those things where I'm like, isn't it more effort at this point to cheat than just to play by the rules? Like, I feel like a lot of times people, they cheat and they drug horses to get an edge because they don't want to play by the rules, because they don't want to really have to do all the training that it takes with like a horse without performance enhancing drugs. Now it seems like Wayne Potts is going out of his way to try to rack up these violations. It's just one after another, and it seems like he would be better off just trying to play by the rules. But I guess certain personalities don't even think that way, and it's really just about trying to get away with whatever you can get away with. The tout service thing was so bizarre. I mean, I guess I take him at his word that it wasn't him, and someone was just playing an April Fool's joke, because that would be a completely ridiculous thing, and just kind of another very attention-seeking thing. Like when you're facing all these suspensions to do something like that, it was crazy.
Joe, I want to weigh in on the tout service, and this was about the strangest thing that I've ever seen. And by the way, all of the websites and everything that were linked to this, which were very well done. I mean, this was not, somebody who was just throwing $20 into this thing. They've all been taken down, and they're not accessible anymore. I tend to believe him for this reason. Could anybody be that stupid in his shoes with all his problems to come out with, now I'm going to tout you on winners? And John, I kind of disagree with you. If I'm going to put up, if I'm going to do this, which of course I'm never going to do, I go to Wayne Potts because I think his notoriety makes people, he knows everything. He's an insider. He's, a slick operator type of thing. If you did it with Jimmy Jerkins, who would, he's as vanilla as they come, straight shooter. He's not going to have any great insights. I just picked that name out of the air. But if I ever decide to put out a fake website, you gave me a good idea. Let's say that we got Jason Service working for us, picking winners, and we think a lot of people would flock to that thing much more so than they would if you said Graham Motion.
Right. So what we've learned, the takeaways from this piece is that now we know how to set up a fake touting service with the right kind of trainer, and we know how to stiff a race at Turf Paradise and win, a lot of money as long as we spread the bets out, over time and with different accounts and stuff like that. So this is just an educational show as well as an entertainment show. If you guys decide to do this, we won't even charge you. It's free advice. Knock yourself out. And we'll come
I just reserved the website, betonjason.com.
Speaking of which, I meant to ask this. Maybe I missed it. Did they ever resolve the Saudi Cup purse thing with him?
No, and they won't until he either is found innocent or pleads guilty.
Okay.
And again, it's going to drag on. They're not even going to do the lawsuit till 2023. Nope. And money's just sitting there collecting dust and hopefully interest in some Swiss bank account or something.
I thought the Saudis were going to do their own investigation.
Yeah.
They're still investigating. They're still looking.
The TDN Writers Room was brought to you by the Pennsylvania Horse Breeders Association. Interest is growing for the upcoming 2-year-old PA-sired, PA-bred stallion series that we've talked about before on the show. They recently announced the addition of $50,000 in trainer bonuses to what's already a lucrative series. It'll consist of 4 stakes exclusively for PA-sired, PA-bred colts and fillies, 2 on Monday, August 22nd at Parks, 2 on Saturday, September 24th at Parks, which I believe is Pennsylvania Derby Day, if I'm not mistaken. Free early nominations are due by July 11th, and all information is available at pabred.com. We'll be right back after this message from the PHBA.
The PA Horse Breeders Association introduces the Pennsylvania Stallion Series. 4 brand new races to be run at Parks for PA-sired, PA-bred 2-year-olds. There are 2 $100,000 contests on August 22nd. PA Day at the races. September 24th, PA Derby Day has 2 more races, each with a $200,000 purse. The PA Stallion Series. Yet another reason why Pennsylvania is the premier place to breed and race. For more, please visit pabred.com.
The Green Group Guest of the Week is sponsored by The Green Group, an accounting, tax, consulting, and advisory firm specializing in the thoroughbred industry. With over 500 clients in the horse business, they have proven strategies to save you taxes. Learn more about how they can help you at www.greenco.com. So we're thrilled to welcome back to the show live from the beautifully restored Magdalena headquarters, Kenny McPeek. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Always good to talk to you. So let's talk about Tiz the Bomb. Big win over the weekend at Turfway in the Jeff Ruby Stakes. There was some consideration about taking him to Europe and possibly going to the Kentucky Derby. It sounds like you're leaning towards the Derby. What goes into that formulation when you're trying to figure that out?
Well, we when we ran him in Florida, the colt didn't handle the Gulfstream surface and he didn't handle the kickback. That surface is a little bit different. It's sand based, and he just didn't go for it. I sent him to Turfway to get his confidence back in the Battaglia. I felt like he needed to get back in winning ways, and of course that worked out. And then the natural next step was the Jeff Ruby, which is a race that, since I was a young trainer, I started up at Latonia before it was even Turfway, and I had watched it when it was a Spiral, and then obviously became the Jim Beam, and Jerry Carroll did a great job promoting that racetrack back in the early years of Turfway. But he punched in the other day, ran a super race, and there was an idea that I actually felt like he would be a great horse to take over for the 2000 Guineas in Europe. I think that the Newmarket, the undulation of Newmarket wasn't any worse, or actually be easier than his victory at Kentucky Downs. But through some logistics and technicalities, he's not going to go to the 2000 Guineas. And our next option is either a turf race at Churchill or the Kentucky Derby. I really think at this point the horse probably deserves a chance.
Kenny, thanks for joining us today. And could you talk about the Derby and how much of this is, if you do go in the Derby, is just that it's the Derby, the lure of running in, one of the most prestigious races in the United States of America, versus a grass race where you might be 6-5, judging on without knowing who'd be in there, versus the Kentucky Derby where you might be 12-1 or something like that.
Yeah, I think for stallion potential, it's certainly. I think the horse deserves. He's made $1 million. I mean, the grass race at Churchill's an easy race to lose because it's a 7/8 turf course, and it's really tight and a lot can happen. The ground at Churchill is different than the ground at Gulfstream, and I think you're going to find that actually turf horses probably handle it a little bit better because it's not such a hard kickback. But there's not a lot of options with him otherwise. And after the Kentucky Derby, I really am ambitious to take him to England and Ireland.
And Kenny, not only do you have a really strong 3-year-old colt, but you also have a really nice 3-year-old filly in Cocktail Moments. The overnights just came out from Keeneland, and it looks like she's going to be running in the Ashland. Tell the audience a little bit about how she's developing, and she's an Uncle Mo filly, so I'm assuming that she's probably got some length and lank to her. And this will be her 4th start after running 3rd in the Devona Dale and 3rd in the Untappable.
This filly's got some things to prove. I didn't want to run her on the synthetic at Turfway because I already had Sandstone up there. And the Gulfstream Park Oaks, I think it's a good race. I actually won it a couple seasons in a row. And this year I talked to Bill Shively, the principal at Dixiana. And between him and Steve Cotham, we thought, well, let's see if we can get her at the worst some grade 1 placing. And maybe she'll surprise and win a grade 1. She's got some work to do. I have no idea what she's drawn in against yet. I haven't had a chance to study it, but all indications it was going to be kind of a wide open affair.
Yeah, it looks like it's an 8-horse field. You pulled the 7 hole, and there's a couple of nice fillies in there aside from yours. Nest is in there, and Happy Soul. So it's what I would consider to be a legitimate, grade 1 Ashland, for you. But it's not the 12-horse field that you usually get in the Ashland, which is good.
Exactly.
She wanted to be on the outside.
Yeah, she'll be fine out there. She won at 1 turn at in her maiden win, and then the Devona Dale was a 1-turn mile, and she was 3rd at Fairgrounds. I'm not sure she ran her best race at the Fairgrounds either. She went off heavily favored and kind of struggled the last part of it. But look, she's young, and if she can't get 3rd or better in the Ashland, we'll probably regress and run an A other than. And look, if she jumps up and surprises and fits against these, then maybe we find her in the Kentucky Oaks.
Some other big action for you at Keeneland, obviously, with Smile Happy coming up. He's a horse that I think has a pretty deserved big reputation in the 3-year-old class. He ran 2nd in the Risen Star. I think a lot of people thought he ran better than perhaps the figure or the time would indicate. How do you feel about him? How's he progressed since the Risen Star? And what are your thoughts on this weekend?
Well, this is a really special colt. I've been sitting on this horse like a keg of dynamite for months now. I didn't want more than 2 preps going into the Kentucky Derby. I think the points that he got in Louisiana and the Risen Star will more than likely get him in. And I want to see him run well in the Bluegrass, obviously. And my guess is they'll probably make him the favorite in the Bluegrass. Being a Lexington boy, it's always fun to win the Bluegrass. I'm not going to deny it. And I opted for the Bluegrass over the Florida Derby for not only that, but also the Mackin family are from here in Kentucky. So we felt like the Bluegrass was good for everybody. I didn't want to over race this horse this winter. I really, really set on him for a reason, because I think that he's a horse that can handle the progression of the Derby, Preakness, Belmont. And you've got to have some juice in the tank for those races. If you're already a little tired or you've overdone it going into these 3 races or those 3 races, then obviously your horse is going to be taxed. But he could set up really well for those. And the Bluegrass, my expectation is he can win, and as long as he gets points and he punches his Derby trip, then that's also important.
So just to follow up, the tentative plan is to run him in all 3 Triple Crown races?
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Kenny, you've won so many big races. You won a Preakness, you won a Belmont, but of course you have not won a Kentucky Derby. How do you feel about your chances this year? And is this 2022 the strongest hand you've ever had at this point, 4 weeks out from the Derby, 4+ weeks out from the Derby?
Well, the Bluegrass will certainly dictate that. I mean, if Smile Happy runs to expectations in the Bluegrass, it will definitely be the best hand that I've ever had. I've had some horses that I think, coulda, woulda, shoulda. Tahana Run was a horse that struggled with a lung infection all winter and still ran a real credible 2nd. I really think we should have won it with Harlan's Holiday, but I think the pace of that race, I think we made some tactical errors on that. And then Repent was probably that same season a horse that coulda, woulda, shoulda. And but look, you got to be lucky to win the Derby. I mean, even if you've got a great group of horses, you still got to have the race unfold and the right ride, and a lot of good things have got to happen. And I'm resigned to the fact that when it's our turn, it's our turn. And if it's not, it's not. I'm okay with it.
And yeah, we're already 10 minutes into the interview. We haven't even mentioned Rattle and Roll, who ran a credible fourth in the Louisiana Derby. Is he still on pace for the Kentucky Derby?
I don't have an excuse for him in Louisiana. I was ultra impressed by Epicenter. I think he's a very legitimate favorite at this point. I think I saw in the futures that he's now the favorite on the Kentucky Derby futures. I just didn't have an excuse. I know that this is a horse that needed a few races to get back in gear, but is he good enough? He's going to have to find another level. He is what I'd call a setup horse. He's a horse that needs, and if you'll look back at the futurity that he won at Keeneland, they went 46 and change up front. They melted each other down. He sat back there, wiggled his way through, and punched home. He's not going to be a horse that if the pace is slow and they don't give him something to run at, that I think his chances are compromised. The likelihood is that I'll run him back in the Lexington. I talked to Mike Mackin, who the Mackin family, they're all involved in Smile Happy and Rattle and Roll. And we think the Lexington's a pretty good spot. We contemplated Oaklawn Stakes. There's a race down there a week later, but the Lexington's obvious. And if the horse has a good week, then he'll go in there. But if he were to win the Lexington, will he run in the Kentucky Derby? Maybe that depends on Smile Happy. Maybe it depends on whether, Rattle and Roll we think is got a legitimate chance. He's got to find another gear, though.
I wanted to shift gears a little bit and kind of, I think, tee you up for this one because you've been an outspoken critic of Lasix in the past. One thing I noticed from the equine injury database results that were released last week was a steep drop in fatal breakdowns for 2-year-olds, which I had never seen before. It was below 1. It was 0.98. And some people have made the connection that the getting rid of Lasix and 2-year-old races and stakes races could contribute to a decrease in the breakdown rate. What are your feelings on that?
I would be surprised if there was a direct correlation to that, because I do think over the long run, I mean, there are studies in humans that Lasix causes, it contributes to osteoporosis. The dehydration factor that to me is a bigger detriment with the Lasix than anything is in the long run, I think it could very well be an issue for horses' bones, but perhaps when they get older and they've been treated with it, many, many times. I'm not a scientist, but common sense says that might be the case. And if that's the case with humans, perhaps there's a direct connection. But with 2-year-olds, I would be surprised. And the truth is that 2-year-olds really don't need it. And I think the percentage of horses that actually do need it is smaller than the use of it previously. And so I'm glad to see that we're using less. And I never used a lot to begin with anyway. And, hopefully it's an evolution of the game here in the States.
Kenny, I want to take you down another path. And you're somebody who made a lot of history with a filly a few years ago with Swiss Skydiver winning the Preakness. Did you become a fan of Secret Oath? And what did you think of her race the other day and how Wayne has campaigned her?
I've watched her a little bit, having been at Oaklawn. I watched her train a bit, and Wayne's a good friend of mine. I wished I'd worked for him when I was younger, but I've got a lot of respect for Wayne, and I would have loved to have seen that filly make the Derby. I think it would have been really good for the sport. I'm not sure. Maybe she was a little too far back the other day. I mean, she ended up way off the pace, and I can't tell you how Cyberknife and her were positioned, but she didn't quite make the kick. And, she's a big, beautiful filly. Maybe she wins the Oaks and she comes back in the Preakness, which Rachel Alexander did, but she's a superstar. And Rob and Stacy Mitchell, I'm one of the first trainers that Rob and Stacy had years ago, and their farm actually is close to Magdalena where I'm sitting now. And they deserve a good horse. They've kind of knocked around it. And Rob's always been very ambitious. I actually ran a filly in the Kentucky Oaks for him years ago, and I'm not sure she had a had a legitimate chance. But Rob was always like, let's get in those races. Well, he's got a real deal now. She's a real deal.
Yep. And from those good fillies to one that you campaigned, Swiss Skydiver, now that you're, a year past her racing career, can you look back on one of the races or one of the moments that you had with her that resonate with you as a trainer?
Well, that Preakness was magical. The way that all the details went down, I didn't have a jockey 24 hours going into the entry, which was still kind of irks me a little bit. But anyway, we worked it out, and Robbie did a great job. And Robbie, he works for me now, and he's retired, and he never really did get his career kick started again. I'm not sure why, but he's been a big part of the team. And the Preakness, he and I, every day we got up, we went and took care of her. He got on her every day, got to know her. Love him or hate him, Robbie Alvarado, he's a great, great hand, great talent. And I think people see a picture of him and I slapping high fives right after the race, because the deal was that we pulled it off because we knew we were kind of we knew we were an outsider. But man, she had a great week. I hot walked her all the time. The connection with her was strong, and you don't get many opportunities like that. I mean, training horses can be sometimes too much business and not enough horse and human. And, when I traveled with her, I tended to spend a little more time with her, which is fun.
Yeah. All right. This is a personal question for me on the way out. We're going to Lexington. We're going to be at Keeneland. We're going to record a show live from Keeneland later this month. I never been to Lexington. I'm sure these guys have. You're a Lexington guy. Give me some recommendations. What are some things I have to do for the time I'm in Lexington?
Oh, goodness. Let's see. So what day are you arriving?
I'm coming in Saturday morning. So I'll be at the races Saturday, Sunday.
Well, Saturday morning, I'm giving a confirmation clinic here at Magdalena. We've invited some people out. You're welcome to come to that. It starts at 10.
All right.
Saturday night, we're having a barbecue here at Magdalena, which you're welcome to come. I don't know if everybody on this podcast wants to hear it anyway.
You hear that? Open invite.
We do that every spring. But look, there's some great restaurants in town. American is one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tony's, Dudley's. I guess Frankie and Dino's is a new one that's really good. You need to go downtown. Are you going to be there through Thursday?
No, we're leaving Tuesday.
Okay. Well, Thursday Night Live is typically a good spot.
Okay.
I mean, the Bourbon Trail takes a little bit of time. And if you can hit any of the farms, I mean, those are amazing around town. Certainly, the Claibornes and Three Chimneys and Lane's End. But I think you've got to get on the tour, the horse country tours, to do a lot of that.
Gotcha.
And I don't know, being from here, I don't think about all that much.
Yeah, that's why
I know that driving the country roads in the spring in Lexington, Kentucky is one of the coolest things. And I know that when I leave Keeneland at night after the races, I always go the back roads home because it's gorgeous, the horse farms and, the scenery. And you can't take that for granted. It's really amazing.
Kenny, thank you so much for coming on with us. Best of luck this Saturday and the rest of the Derby and Triple Crown season. We love talking to you.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Kenny.
The Green Group Guest of the Week is sponsored by the Green Group, an accounting, tax, consulting, and advisory firm specializing in the thoroughbred industry. As this week's Green Group Guest of the Week, Ken McPeek will receive a free 1-hour tax consultation. Learn more at greenco.com. We'll be right back after this message from the Green Group.
Why do the most successful owners, breeders, and horsemen select the Green Group as their tax advisor? We simply save them money and know how to make them more successful. Over the past 40 years, founder Leonard Green has owned and bred some of the best racehorses in the history of the sport. His in-depth, hands-on industry knowledge, combined with cutting-edge tax-saving strategies, has produced positive results for his clientele and has made the Green Group the top-rated accounting and tax firm in the business. For a confidential and complimentary consultation, contact us at 732-634-5100 or visit our website at www.greenco.com. The Green Group, proven strategies to save you taxes.
The TDN Writers Room is brought to you by XBTV. The XBTV workout of the week this week is Kentucky Derby hopeful Messier, working 5 furlongs, as you can see on the screen right now. On Saturday at Santa Anita, going 1 minute and 3/5. The winner of the Grade 3 Bob Hope Stakes and Grade 3 Bob Lewis Stakes recently transferred to the Tim Yakteen barn, and we'll see him this weekend in the Grade 1 Run Happy Santa Anita Derby. Very much looking forward to seeing how he runs. He's been off for a little bit since that Bob Lewis effort. Obviously, he's got a new trainer now. He's going to have a new trainer, I think, you would think for at least the next 3 months, unless something unexpected happens. But he was, like I said before, he was the real wow performance of the Derby season. I think before Epicenter, if you want to say Epicenter is up there with him now. But so we've been waiting to see him run. And if you want to see his works, if you want to see all of the prep works for the Santa Anita Derby, the Wood Memorial, the Bluegrass, and leading up to the Kentucky Derby, always go to xbtv.com to search the horse. Almost certainly they'll be in there. So we got a big weekend of Derby prep races. This is the last major weekend. Ken McPeek said he might run Rattle and Roll in the Lexington and then go to the Derby. But in general, we're going to know who the Derby field is after this weekend. It's been a long road, but it's been a fun road with these Derby trail preps. I think there is a number of ways you can go right now in the Derby, and we'll get a little bit clearer picture after this Saturday. But let's check out the Derby Chase standings points, because I'm making a move. I'm coming up on Bill Finley, White Barrio, who was my 4th round pick. It was good value there, I thought. Got 100 points for winning the Florida Derby. So I'm up to 190. Bill is still sitting in the catbird seat in charge at 210. Al's at 130. He had Simplification, who ran 3rd in the Florida Derby. John has got 95. He got 40 from Charge It, running 2nd in Florida. And Sue is at 25, all thanks to Pioneer of Medina. So this weekend, let's see who we got in the prep races before we dive into the probables. John has Mo Donegal in the Wood Memorial, Emmanuel in the Bluegrass. I have Smile Happy in the Bluegrass. Al has early voting in the Wood, as well as Zandon in the Bluegrass. And in the Santa Anita Derby, Bill looking very strong with Forbidden Kingdom and Messier. As John mentioned off air, Bill had the guts to take Messier, not knowing whether or not the Kentucky Derby was on the radar for him. He's going to make it in now, unless he runs disastrously this weekend. But Bill's sitting very pretty, I would think, going into the weekend. But we got a great stakes weekend coming up at Keeneland. We got, in addition to the Friday stakes, we got the Appalachian, we've got the Commonwealth, the Madison, the Shakertown, the Toyota Bluegrass on Saturday at Keeneland. At Aqueduct, we've got the Distaff, the Carter, the Bayshore, the Gazelle, the Wood Memorial. At Santa Anita, we've got the Monrovia, the Providencia, the Royal Heroine, and the Santa Anita Derby. Take your pick. It's one of the most action-packed weekends of the year. What are you guys looking forward to?
The Derby favorite will come out of this weekend, not last weekend. Who that's going to be, I have no idea. Messier would be the most likely one. If he runs off the screen in the Santa Anita Derby, he's going to be the favorite in the Kentucky Derby. And Forbidden Kingdom, too. The question is, how far can he go? I mean, he just looked awesome winning the San Vicente. The other thing I want to say, and Smile Happy, I'm a big fan of his, Joe. I think he'll win the Bluegrass, and I think he'll be one of the favorites in the Kentucky Derby. And we have some interesting, some of the comments we heard from Ken McPeek about him were very interesting. The other thing I want to mention is, the Wood Memorial has been the prep that everybody likes to beat up on. It's the one that's still a Grade 2 that used to be a Grade 1. I don't know if the Wood winner is going to win the Kentucky Derby, but this is a much better Wood Memorial than we've seen in a long time. I mean, you have 3 very good horses in there, Mo Donegal, Morello, and Early Voting. And whoever wins that race, I don't think they'd be the favorite in the Kentucky Derby, but they certainly come into it as a big contender. Yeah, as much fun as last weekend was with the 3 big prep races, including the Jeff Ruby Stakes. This is it. This is the one. We've got some very, very good horses running this weekend. And when we do this show at this time next week, I think we'll be able to say, hey, fill in the blank. Maybe Messier, maybe Smile Happy will be the horse to beat in the Kentucky Derby.
And this weekend's racing is one of the most exciting for me. I count, the first weekend of April and the first weekend of October as 2 of my all-time favorite days of racing, because it is the prep day, basically prep weekend. In the first weekend of April, obviously, is the prep for all the Oaks and the Derby candidates. And then in October, it's for all the Breeders' Cup races. So I love this, this weekend of racing. And Joe, you mentioned all the different stake races and all the different graded stake races that are going to be unfolding right before our eyes, on Friday into Saturday. And I'm really, really excited just to watch and be a fan of the industry, just be a fan of the sport and watch how things develop and see which underdogs come up and end up beating the favorites and which favorites go on and take the next step and graduate. The other thing I wanted to mention is, when we did our contest, I wrote down, who the top candidates were and who trains them. And in my top 25 or so, I only had one horse that Brad Cox was, was the trainer of, and that was Zozo's. And boy, have things turned around since that time. I mean, he is really loaded for bear now. And I think that he actually may have more entries in the Derby than any other trainer other than maybe Todd Pletcher.
So we lost Bill to some technical difficulties and promised we didn't kick him out for any of his comments before on any of the trainers. He's going to be back next week. But I just wanted to wrap up that segment and put a bow on it. As John was saying, Brad Cox now has potentially 3 Derby horses in Cyberknife, Zozos, and Tony Port, who was second in the Jeff Ruby Stakes. Shout out to Bill. And just wanted to mention a couple other horses on the undercard races that I'll be looking forward to watching. In the Santa Anita Oaks, we've got Adair Manor, who I thought was probably one of the most impressive fillies of the year, at least until the past couple of weekends. So very much looking forward to seeing her run. And I think we're going to get to see Golden Pal in the Shakertown, who's back. He's going to make his 4-year-old debut at Keeneland. That's a turf course that he likes for sure. And then in the Carter, Speaker's Corner, who I mentioned last time, I thought was just, he blew me away, honestly, in that stakes, in the Gulfstream Park Mile Stakes. So we're going to see him in the Grade 1 7 furlong Carter. So just a couple of horses to watch. But as John said, it really is one of the best weekends of the year racing-wise, where you can just really hop all around the country and get great action. And, it's gonna be a hell of a day, and we're going to have fun recapping it next week and looking forward to what we're going to have in terms of a set Derby field, which I think we're going to get at this weekend. The TDN Writers Room is brought to you by West Point Thoroughbreds. Joining a West Point Thoroughbreds partnership can vault you into the world of instant camaraderie among people surrounding high-class horses and stakes action for a fraction of the cost of trying to do it on your own. You can learn more at westpointtb.com. West Point added 2 prospects to their racing roster at the Facing Tipton Gulfstream sale. A colt by Medaglia d'Oro, who's a half-brother to Constitution, so very royally bred there, as well as a colt by freshman sire West Coast, Lane's End stallion. Both will be going to Shug McGahee. West Point also has a runner on opening day of the Keeneland meet. Magnolia Midnight looks to get his 2nd straight win of the year in the Lafayette Stakes. That's a great field. Definitely go check that race out. Best of luck to our friends at West Point this weekend and throughout the Keeneland meet. We'll be right back after this message from West Point Thoroughbreds.
All the thrills. Fraction of the bills. Experience the power of the partnership. Change your life, make new friends, and compete at the highest level of thoroughbred racing. West Point Thoroughbreds, the gold standard in racing partnerships. Visit westpointtb.com.
Being a small family business, I guess we're part of a dying breed. We're really grateful for the people that entrust us. We know it's a huge responsibility.
We're always with your horse every step of the way. When it comes to being at the sales ground, showing your horses, we are with your horse.
Just driving up and down the road every day, there's not a time that I don't look out and feel a responsibility to the sport, the animal, the people that come to invest in the game. I want to see as many people enjoy this sport as they possibly can, because we do have the most beautiful sport in the world.
The TDN Writers Room is brought to you by Legacy Bloodstock. If you think that 50 years combined experience in the horse business could benefit your program, give Tommy or Wendy a call. They personally advise on each horse as if they were their own. Legacy sales graduates continue to pose for the camera in 2022 with 56 winners already. They've earned over $2 million in 2022 and over $138 million all time. They had an impressive graduate last weekend with Life is Hard, who got a 2nd straight win at Oaklawn Park. That was a nice looking field. He looks pretty good. I think he's a Jimmy DeVito trainee, if I'm not mistaken. Son of Munnings went through their consignment at the 2018 Keeneland November sale. So great job to Tommy and Wendy in getting that horse prepared. And the yearling sale season will be here before you know it. So give them a shout. Well, thank God Bill is back from timeout. I'm glad he was able to rejoin us. It's time for this week's Remy cartoon. So this week's Remy cartoon, the horses might have to get their beak wet a little bit with the Bob Baffert kind of dispersal, at least for the time being. So, why not get involved if you're a horse and pick up a couple extra bucks? Sell anything you got: horseshoes, feed, halters. I respect the horse's hustle in that way. And also last week's cartoon, I very much related to. I felt very seen. We had the two guys, one bet Medina Spirit, one bet Mandaloun. The guy that bet Medina Spirit is on a boat and chilling. Life is great, even though the horse is DQ'd from the Derby, and the guy with Mandaloun, me, ends up with just a ripped up ticket for all his trouble. So shout out to Remy for seeing all of us disgruntled Mandaloun bettors in that cartoon. Just wanted to mention this before we go. A federal judge last Thursday threw out the Constitutionality Lawsuit, which was initiated 1 year ago by the National Horsemen's Benevolent and Protective Association, that was designed to keep HISA, the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Act, from going into effect on July 1st, 2022. Just going to read the quote here from United States District Court Judge James Wesley. He said the court recognizes that HISA's regulatory model pushes the boundaries of public-private collaboration. The court also acknowledges the dramatic change that HISA imposes nationwide on the thoroughbred horse racing industry, but that change resulted from a decision of the people through Congress, and despite its novelty, the law as constructed stays within current constitutional limitations as defined by the Supreme Court and the Fifth Circuit. So there was a little bit of a nod there that yes, this pushes the boundaries a little bit, and so it wasn't like he threw it out of hand, but at the end of the day, Congress passed a law, and the FTC has a chance to go through it and to have comment periods. There's been enough public response allowed for this bill to go into effect. So obviously, again, not a lawyer, but this made sense to me. And I hope we can just move on from this. We saw some of the HISA regulations get approved in the past week. Some of the cost structure is starting to come into focus. So, we still need the drug enforcement thing to be taken care of. That's like the big, elephant in the room. But I would hope at least now we can move on and at least start to implement the safety aspects of this program as we work on the drug enforcement aspect. So, kudos to that judge. And again, hopefully we don't have to talk about the HBPA lawsuits forever now. So I can't ban it. I can't ban it like I did with the Baffert speech. But, fingers crossed we're at the end of this road. All right, so that's going to do it for this week's edition of the TDN Writers Room, presented by Keeneland. A reminder that the Keeneland Spring Meet, I shouldn't have to remind you. You should already know it's 2 days away, opening day, Friday, April 8th. And don't forget about the Keeneland Horses of Racing Age sale, which is after the races on closing day, April 29th. I want to thank Bill Finley, John Green, our Green Group guest of the week, Ken McPeek, our producer, Patty Wolf, our associate producer, Katie Petroniak, and our editors, Anthony LaRocca, Aaliyah LaRocca, and Nathan Wilkinson. Thank you so much for watching. See you next week.